Betting Show. Now, my next guest, I'm thrilled to have on. The reason is his information that he provides every day, every week, every month is so valuable to the sports betting market. So with no further ado, let me bring on Pro Football Doc. You can find him on Twitter at Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chao.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on, Doc. I mean, I tell people all the time the information that you provide for sports bettors is so valuable if you're looking to get ahead and turn a profit in this market. I mean, the injuries are huge. So let's start firing away. What are some of the players this year going into the first week of the season that are banged up, and what are some of the more healthier players coming into the first week of the season?
Well, look, how much time do you have, right? I mean, there's a long list, but you know what? I appreciate coming on here, and obviously I know the stuff can be useful for gambling and futures and so forth, but we're injury experts at Sports Injury Central, and you know what you do with it, that's for you guys to figure out in handicapping. And so, you know, it's preseason futures. I mean, look, I'm not buying into Breece Hall having a great year. I'd take Dalvin Cook over Breece Hall. He's still coming off his ACL. High-end speed at 23 miles an hour is all well and good, but how quickly does he get up to 23 miles an hour? And it's about deceleration and cutting for a running back. How did Saquon Barkley do his first year back from an ACL? Not so well. So we're kind of would be happier with Dalvin Cook than Breece Hall and unders on his futures. But there's a lot of different injuries around the league. We can go any number of places. You know, Terry McLaurin in game when it happened, he said that's a turf toe. And that's going to be a problem for him, at least the first part of the season. And if he does or can play, he's going to lose half his route tree. And, you know, there's some offensive line issues with the Texans, and there's a lot of issues with the Texans. But we can go any number of places, wherever you want to go.
Hey, Doc, can I ask you a question? Hey, it's Jamie. You know, I thank you for sharing this information. Is really vital to our process. I just gave out a future on the Niners. And I believe that they're going to win their division, but this certainly has something to do with Brock Purdy because he's a beast. And I really believe in this young guy. But, you know, once they start having injuries and what happened to him going down in that playoff game last year, there is a concern. I would love to hear from you because they're telling me that he's healthy. Is that how you're feeling that could he make it through this entire season?
Well, we hope he can. The thing that you have to be careful on a Brock Purdy, here's the good and bad news. To say that it wasn't the Tommy John ligament is ridiculous. It was the ulnar collateral ligament, but it was a repair, not a reconstruction. Thus, it allows him a quicker recovery. But here's the issue. Even Tom Brady, during COVID, tried to get his players together so he could have some offseason practice. Brock Purdy hasn't had any, and he's still, you could argue, a rookie because he hasn't made it through a whole cycle yet. So yes, it's the same system, but clearly, you know, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to open up the playbook a little bit for him. You know, my worry on Brock Purdy is less purely about the elbow. Of course, if he gets it hit the same way, that could be a problem, but he's still a rookie. And, you know, look, in other sports, for example, baseball, that AAA or AA pitcher does pretty well for the first time or two through the lineup. But what happens when there's a good film and tape on him? That might be a concern for Brock Purdy and the 49ers.
It's a good point. Thank you.
Next up, we're heavily invested, Doc, in the Cowboys this year. And I'm always worried about the trenches, the offensive line, defensive line. Is any other starters banged up going into the season on either side of the line?
Well, the offensive and defensive line are not too bad right now. And, you know, at Sports Injury Central, and I'll get you guys the field view, the sick data that we have. And you're right. I mean, everyone knows it when it's a quarterback, you know, Brock Purdy, but you got to look at the trenches a lot of times. And, you know, I was doing some work today, and, you know, 3 out of the 5 Texans offensive line starters are out, and they had to trade for somebody. So now you got CJ Stroud behind a patchwork offensive line to start off there. So you make a very good point there. That's where we have worry for, let's say, any worry that we have for the Jets starts and stops with the offensive line. That's what submarined Aaron Rodgers and the Packers last season. Going into last season, we didn't like the fact that the left tackle Bakhtiari and the right tackle Jenkins were banged up still. And, you know, it's one thing if it's just one side and you can shift protection, but when it's bookends, that makes it much harder, which is why at the beginning of last season, we said, look, by injuries, we are not sure we like the Packers, and we like the under there for the season, and we like the over on the Vikings, and even to win the division. I think it was 240 at the time. So what we do is just off of injuries and what we see and projecting. And as you know, we're really the only site that does true injury analysis as opposed to injury reporting. So we don't just go by what the coaches say.
Hey, Doc, it's the 8-Ball here. We've seen a lot of fluctuation in this Browns-Bengals game with the line. I want to know, how healthy is Joe Burrow going into this game?
Well, when Joe Burrow went down, my cell phone went off. The Sports Injury Central staff was texting me and sending me video. He got carted off and whatever. And we actually put out there that it was a calf strain before their practice even finished. Now, where we disagree with Coach Taylor is he said it was mild. We thought it was at least moderate, grade 2, which explains why he's been out the rest of the preseason. The good news, though, is we think from the get-go, we always thought he would be there week 1. And Joe Burrow can play well from the pocket, and that's all you want him to do anyways. He probably won't rush much in the beginning because you don't want to accelerate out of the pocket and re-aggravate that calf. But he should be able to play and play well. We've always had confidence that he would make it week 1. And part of that is also Joe Burrow's really never had a preseason. His rookie season was COVID. The second year was recovering from the ACL. The third year, last year, he had an appendicitis and appendix surgery, didn't play in the preseason. Now with the calf, so he's kind of used to it. But his offensive line is a little bit of a concern. They have a new left tackle. They switched Jonah Williams coming off injury to right tackle. La'el Collins is still out at right tackle, so there is some concern there for his offensive line. But Burrow himself should be fine. And it's more common that Zach Taylor plays coy with injuries, which is why you're not hearing that Joe Burrow is the starter. It was actually unusual that he came out right after that training camp practice and said it was a calf and sort of calmed the waters here. But once he's declared to play, who knows? You guys are the expert. That line's been climbing, I think, from 1.5 to 2.5. It might hit 3.
Yeah, we're actually on the Browns there, +3. But I know Matt has something to ask you as well.
Yeah, hey, Doc. It's Matt Maltz from the College Kids. So I have a question about the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year, they had all 22 starters starting in the Super Bowl. I wanted to talk about how hard that is to stay that healthy through an NFL season, such a violent sport. And with a running quarterback leading the charge, is there increased risk of injury with all those collisions?
Well, there's no question the vast majority of injuries to quarterbacks happen when extending plays, whether it's staying in the pocket and trying to extend the play and getting hit, but more commonly as you go out of the pocket. I am always more nervous with, look, I had Phillip Rivers for a lot of my career with the San Diego Chargers. And he basically, he got hurt, but he always came and made the bell the next game. And part of it was he got rid of the football, right? He really wasn't a running quarterback. If you look at the majority of injuries to quarterbacks, it's extending plays and outside of the pocket. And that comes with the risk in terms of just more collision. I don't believe in injury prone. That's to call someone, there's a weak spot in their body, they're injury prone, but there are players that are more prone to injury. Look, if you're skiing down double black diamonds, you're more prone to tear up your knee than if you're skiing on green and blue runs, right? And so, yes, any mobile running quarterback potentially takes more hits.
Doc, I want to thank you for coming on each and every week. We're so thrilled to have you on here. The information you provide is so vital in what we do. And you guys are doing a great job at your website. So if you want to tell everyone where they can find you, your website, and any other information that you want to give out there.
Yeah, we're at Sports Injury Central, sicscore.com, and we have field views up, preseason injury report. Look, and the best feature I think we may have is Sick Insights, quick twitch. Look what's up with the latest with Cooper Kupp. Just go right there, bookmark it, whether it's for fantasy, DFS. And what we say is, look, we're not gambling experts. You guys are. You guys make the picks, but if our injury information lines up with what you're thinking, maybe you want to, go more units. If it doesn't, maybe you want to exercise caution. But you guys are still all the best handicappers, and we just try and give you information to make your picks even better.
Thank you so much for coming on, Doc. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
His information is so valuable. I mean, some of the biggest wagers I've ever made, was when a team starting offensive lineman, if they were missing 2 starting offensive linemen, I don't care who their quarterback was. I don't care how good their record was. I don't care what their point differential was, what their metrics were. I was betting against them. Because if you can't protect your quarterback, how are you going to move the ball?
You're getting that information early. Right?
Absolutely.
Before the public gets it.
Yeah,
Especially when you have 2 offensive linemen, right, that are out, for example, like you said.
Hold that thought, Matt. We're going to come back in segment 2. Don't go away. We're going to be giving out some more NFL futures.